everyone. Welcome back to Cyber Unbound podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. We have Mr. Krish Gandhi, the creator behind the massively popular Instagram page Cyber Detectives. Krish has been educating millions of people regarding online scams, how can one protect themselves from digital scams, as well as Krish is currently an MBA student at the prestigious Indian School of Business. Krish, it's truly a pleasure today to have you at Cyber Unbound podcast. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Shikhar, for this kind introduction. Really looking forward to having some insightful conversations today with you.
Krish, you have built an incredible platform and community with Cyber Detectives. So, what really inspired you to start Cyber Detectives page as well as create content around digital scams, online scams?
Sure. So, looking back, it has now been 1.8 to 2 years since we started Cyber Detectives. And the way Cyber Detectives started was very impromptu. So, by that, what I mean is me and the person who runs this page, basically the faces of the page, me and Anuj, we were having lunch together sometime back in Surat, where we belong, in a co working setup. Now we saw like a lot of people around us during lunch were discussing that, hey, I lost 50,000 rupees. Hey, something similar happened to my uncle. Hey, it also happened to my aunt. And we started seeing that there was a lot of commonality between what these people were saying. All of them were becoming victims of online scams. And on that lunch table, me and Anuj decided that, oh, this seems like a very big problem. If 7 out of 10 people around us have faced some sort of a online scam, or at least faced some sort of an attack, then it's definitely something that will only increase, because India is moving through a rapid phase of digitization, while the digital literacy rate in the country is very low. So after doing some research, I found that every year India loses 10,000 crore rupees just in online scams. 75% of the people who lose money in online scams have never been able to recover any of it. And the Indian bureaucratic system of going to judiciary system, filing a case and trying to recover money, it's very slow and tedious. By the time like scammers generally run away with that money. So we decided that this is a problem that can only be solved through awareness and knowledge. And we saw that there was literally no one who was trying to spread awareness on this. So hence we decided that we have to start something, and that's where Cyber Detectives was born. It was basically a lunchtime idea of me and Anuj of starting an Instagram page and trying to make sure that India becomes digitally safe in the next few years.
Right. So, you mentioned that the digital literacy in India is very less. So, how do you ensure that the content which you're creating around tech and cybercrime and digital scams, they're very easy to understand by an average Indian, and it is interesting for them to understand the content?
Right. So we were very sure that the audience class that we want to cater to are not the upcoming youth of the country. What we wanted to cater to is specifically the age group of 25 plus up till the age of 50, who have just become, who have just started using technology, whether it's mobile phone, it's laptops, or it's internet, to be using different kinds of apps. So what we realize is that when I am creating a piece of content, I ensure that each and every line of it is supported by some sort of a visual, and every video also shows some sort of steps that you can take visually to ensure that you are digitally safe. So what I think on the back of my mind is that if I put this content out, will my mom, who is a 48-year-old woman, very new to technology, will she be able to understand this piece of content, or will she still need some advice from someone? If she still needs advice for someone, then the content is of no use. So we like we very much ensure, and it's always there in our consciousness when we're creating videos, that every video should be self-explanatory, backed by visuals, so that the person who is understanding that particular part can self-implement those steps and try to be safe by themselves.
Right. So, because even I have seen some of your reels before, it is very interesting, very nice to watch. It is very informative. Now, has any senior citizen ever reached out to you that they were able to protect themselves from digital scams because they had watched your video on Cyber Detectives? I mean, what's the response been in the community?
Yeah, so every year, Shikhar, we get 200 plus DMs on our Instagram. 100 to 150 of them are basically about, hey, I have been scammed. And there is a long message that they type, which is basically explaining the context of the scam, how it happened with them. And they are seeking for some sort of help. And the remaining ones are basically the people who sort of were able to use some of the content into their daily life and were able to secure themselves. A classic example here is that a lot of people don't even know that every phone that we use has a SOS emergency feature in their settings. Now, if I just say it in the video, nobody would implement it because, first of all, to navigate to that feature, understand how it works, how to disable it, it's a lot of pain, right? So, what we do is we actually show it on the screen in the reels itself as to where, how to navigate to that feature, how to ensure that you are using that feature correctly, and then giving some tips on how to use that feature efficiently to make yourself digitally safe. So this is the kind of sort of content, and this is the kind of impact, and these are the kind of messages we keep getting from people.
Right. So I think content creation and cybersecurity awareness is still very niche in comparison to I mean finance or probably fashion or gaming. So do you think cybersecurity awareness content creation will become a mainstream?
Not really, because you have to understand that there are three kinds of content pieces. One is the educational content, right? So this is the kind of content which helps you understand about finance, understand about stock market, understand about fashion. So these are the kind of educational content, or business maybe. You understand business. The second is entertainment content. So these are basically dance reels, some vines or memes that people post, or some sort of comedy that they do in order to entertain people. And the third is infotainment, which is a mix of information and entertainment, right? So it's very few people in India have been able to crack the infotainment piece, which is to club information, but then still make it visually fun and appealing to the masses, right? And the idea is that give entertainment, but spread a message along with that entertainment. And this is a very tough niche to crack. Even we, after a lot of trials and errors, were able to figure out that how can we provide some education with some fun. And if you see a lot of our reels, me and Anuj are acting. I sort of maybe am giving some sort of a humorous tone to the overall, sort of, or we sometimes act, out that one of them is a scammer and the other is a person who is being scammed. So these are the kind of sort of directional moves that you need to take in order to ensure you get the infotainment piece right, and that's the sweet spot to play with. And I don't think a lot of people would be interested, especially in the cyber security. It's a very niche play, right? We are not doing it for money. We are not doing it for monetizing and making a lot of money. And a lot of people might not want to go there because a lot of content creators just want to mint money.
Right. So, because the world of cybersecurity and scams is changing on a daily basis because of the rise in artificial intelligence, how can people protect themselves with AI deepfakes and voice changing scams which are taking place in today's world?
Correct. So it's a very brilliant question that you ask, because we keep getting a lot of such queries every day on DMs. And in fact, there have been instances where, in fact, software engineers uh, uh, who understands technology more than anyone in the country today have become victims to such AI frauds, AI scams, where they've lost 8 lakhs, 10 lakhs, and up to, as much as I remember, there was a case where someone lost 18 lakh rupees. And when you think about it, it might seem that, oh, it wouldn't happen with me, but it can happen with anyone. And one way to look at it is that, in definitely the AI voice calls, like today the technology is so good, Shikhar, that I can take your voice for 4 seconds, give it to a model, and that model will completely mimic your voice from that just 4 seconds of your footage. So it's very easy for scammers. But one way to sort of ensure that you at least are safe is that have a security code with your family members, some sort of a security code. So let's say my mom is calling me. Okay, And if there is some sensitive information that she wants me to answer, let's say some sort of maybe OTP that has come to my mobile, or maybe bank password, or maybe some password of Instagram or social media, right? At that point in time, if I have previously talked with my mom that this is the security code could be mango 123. So when she's asking me the question in phone, I can just ask her what is the security code. Now that if a scammer is using AI voice call, that model would not know that this is the context and this is the security code. Hence, if it's a AI call, they would not be able to answer this question, and I'll know that it's a fraud call, and I would not give any information to that person. But if my mom knows, she'll tell mango 123, and I can then pass all the information to her. So this is just one of the ways you can sort of safeguard yourself.
Right. I think that's a very interesting method to actually, deflect these AI models, which are causing a lot of scams. I think a lot of businesses in today's world think that only large businesses can get scammed, right? But even small businesses do get scammed. So how can small businesses and MSMEs protect themselves from these online scams happening, especially, for example, phishing? And I would appreciate if you can explain to us using an example of how can small businesses protect themselves.
Sure. So there are two ways to look at it, right? Especially for MSMEs. One way to look at it is what are you doing for threat prevention, and second is what are you doing after threat is being made, some sort of cyber threat is being made. Now, the first part is what how you can ensure yourself. Uh, is that first you have to take cybersecurity insurance. It's a must right now for every MSME, because every MSME in some sense is using some sort of technology to empower their operations and the team. The simplest could be, I know that there's a textile merchant who is just running a small shop back in Mumbai, is also using Tally for accounting. Now, if there is any sort of touch to technology, and if that technology is being used by some of your employees, then it is very important for you to take cybersecurity insurance. The cybersecurity penetration rate in India is very low at this point in time, Shikhar. It's lesser than 1% for MSMEs. And the problem is that people don't realize the importance of it unless they get scammed. So it is only the people who have faced some sort of problems with this area are the ones taking it. You also have to understand that a lot of times frauds happen because of employee negligence. It is not that a scammer is very talented and he's able to get into your system, because even the people who are making the systems are smart enough, and they have all sort of security walls in place, firewalls, or any sort of quick heal, or let's say other sort of software out there. But it is employees negligence where they end up clicking some wrong email, as you mentioned, phishing email, that the company faces some sort of data leak, data theft, and then they get blackmails from scammers to get them XYZ amount of money. Now, hence, if employees are at the ones who are the root to scams, it is important to get employees trained. So first is we get cybersecurity insurance for MSME. The second is that we get training for employees. A CERT, which is the body which takes care of all things related to information technology and computer and systems in place, tells that it is mandatory for companies to have one cybersecurity training for employees per year. A lot of companies don't comply with that and they don't even know about it. But it is just the need of the hour right now to get your employees trained. And I'm not talking about the employees at IT or software. Like there's no need to train Infosys employees out there, but there's definitely a need to train people like HR, people like finance, people like operations, people like supply chain, people who basically take care of other functions around IT and who still uses technology. These are the two things which I feel very important for MSMEs to ensure that they are safe.
Right. So you mentioned that I mean MSMEs should get insurance and they should also follow compliances which the Computer Emergency Response Team CERT is making in India, right? So Indian government recently has been pushing a lot of policies and regulations around digital scams and cybersecurity. Do you think Indian government is going in the right direction, or should they make more comprehensive laws, more comprehensive policies? So, what's your take and thoughts on the entire policy ecosystem for cybersecurity and cybercrime in India?
Right. So one way to look at it is, Shikhar, that government will sort of do things which it feels that it would help country uh, be digitally safe. Now, I was talking with the Home Minister of Gujarat, and I realized that cyber security in general comes under the Home Ministry. And for Home Ministry, cyber security is one of the biggest problems right now. Because as I told, like 10,000 crore rupees just like lost out in thin air to scammers. And if you can't recover 90% of it, then India itself is losing like a lot of it. Now, I also know a company. The company was a stockbroker in Surat, and they sort of were victims of a data leak. And then they got an email from scammers that if 7 crore rupees is not deposited into some crypto account, that stockbroking company would lose their entire data. Now, these things are happening all over India, and as much as it is it is a private company's problem, it is also a government problem, because if these companies go bankrupt and such uh, if such data is leaking every now and then customers will lose trust in the system out there, right? And hence, I feel it's a joint collaboration between private entities and government, and the laws and the regulation that government needs to pass should be passed with some sort of a body in place. Right now, I feel every industry and every sort of important policy has a body, and I feel that it's a high time that cybersecurity in general forms its own body, which works closely with the government, because both their sort of interests are aligned when it comes to ensuring that India is digitally safe. Especially India, because as I mentioned, that this phase of digitization is moving very fast. While all these people who are, let's say, your mom, my mom, our relatives who are 35 plus have recently been using a lot of internet, a lot of social media, a lot of investment apps, right? Hence, I feel it should be a joint responsibility.
Right. So I think you mentioned that India has lost 10,000 crore rupees in past due to scams, right? I think most of the people who do scams in India are young folks who want to make easy money. Now, according to you, how can their social engineering talent be used, and how can they be guided to probably pursue jobs in cybersecurity, turning
Hmm.
scammers into cybersecurity professionals? How can parents guide their children to ensure such an ecosystem?
Right. So the thing with cybersecurity is that first of all, I don't know any good institution, like standardized institutions, like let's say Christ University, where I did my undergrad from, or let's say ISB is, let's say, one of the institutions. I don't see a established institution which is famous for giving courses around cybersecurity. So do feel that there is some sort of a gap there, a white space, if I were to say so, uh, because there is no institution, there is no information spread to people who are interested to build a career in this space. Second is, uh, it's unclear as to how rewarding this particular career can be. And the reason I say this is that when it comes to cybersecurity, uh, a lot of companies still have not adopted a specialized cybersecurity team. What they rely is on a random IT supplier or vendor who takes care of other things around this area. However, I feel that in the coming times, companies would internalize these teams. That is, they would have their own cybersecurity threat prevention teams, especially these big banks and insurance companies, to be particular. And hence, that would give a rise to a lot of potential for cybersecurity folks to make some money. Also, other thing with this particular model is that cyber security mostly revolves around decoding and decoding a lot of scams and decoding a lot of malware attacks that happen. And this sort of attacks keep changing every 6 months, 8 months. Like the modus operandi of how the scammers basically attack systems keep changing. Now with AI, it might that 8 months might just become 4 months, right? So it's a very ever evolving field where one needs to continuously learn. So there are a lot of factors at play, which is causing this particular career path to be that of uncertainty. But if someone were to standardize a lot of things and provide support to these individuals, then it would definitely be a win-win situations for both the parties.
Right. So because in this space you have built a very strong brand for cyber crimes and digital safety, right? What would your advice be for individuals trying to make a career in content creation space within cybersecurity awareness and digital crimes? Because in 9 months, you have organically built a community of 650,000 followers on Instagram, which is a very big achievement. So, and your page is growing rapidly. So, what's your advices to individuals and companies trying to make content in this field?
Uh, One thing that I think specifically companies need to understand is that Instagram as a platform would not work if you continuously try to sell your product. uh, you don't have to brand your page as that of a company. You need to brand your page as that of an individual who is trying to help public and sort of build a very organic sort of a community from there. Now, just to give you an example, Nike has an Instagram page. That Instagram page has 50 million followers. Nike on that page never ever sells any product. It just celebrates the wins, the losses, and the athleisure of the people it sort of works with. Uh, and that true honor of sportsmanship is truly visible in on their page. Now, on the other side, Nike still pays someone like Marcus Rashford, let's say, who is a footballer and has, let's say, 4 million followers to be its brand ambassador. Now, Nike can easily promote their shoes on their own page, which has 50 million followers, but it still wants to partner up with a tennis star, let's say Jannik Sinner, which has 3-4 million followers, or let's say Carlos Alcaraz, which has, let's say, 20 million followers, because it is the face that sells. It is not the brand that sells. People want to resonate brand with the face. Hence, for brands, they cannot sell directly through Instagram. And for individuals, this is a great opportunity because you yourself can build your own personal brand and then can leverage that brand in order to help other brands spread their message far and wide. But also it has to be done very ethically. It has to be done very organically, and the mission and the purpose of you becoming a content creator should never be that of a money of making money, because history has shown again and again that the people who were in it for money have sort of lost relevance after 3-4 years, and the people who really wanted to spread do it as a mission went going for longer periods in time.
Right. So, do you see yourself expanding from Instagram to probably making cybersecurity awareness courses on YouTube or probably promoting this on LinkedIn or any other social media platforms?
Right. So we do get a lot of queries from people, Shikhar, that they want to build a career in this space, or they sort of also feel that we would know a little bit about this space, and they genuinely come to us as brothers and seek advice. And one thing that we want to do is that we want to help them in some sense. And considering that it's a community, we sort of do see a potential that we if we build a good course around cybersecurity, or if we sort of are able to help an institution do better, then yeah, I do feel that there's a lot of scope to empower a lot of these individuals to really take the career paths that they wish and grow essentially in the next few years.
So, do you also hint of probably creating this into a security consultancy business?
Not really, because security consultancy business requires a lot of expertise. I would be honest to say that I am not an expert who understands a lot about the technicalities of cybersecurity, because for us it was only a mission and purpose driven initiative aimed to ensure that 300 million Indians are digitally safe. It if this particular endeavor of creating a consultancy would require a lot of speciality, and as of now we don't see any plans of doing that and venturing into that space.
So, because you mentioned that you're not an expert in this field and you do not have any necessary background, did you ever face any kind of challenges because that you do not have a founder market fit in this content creation space for cybercrime?
No, not really. Like to me, founder market fit is defined by only three things. One is uh, one is definitely an entrepreneurial mindset to identify gaps and try to solve for it. We saw a gap and we really acted on it quickly. Hence, we were able to grow quickly. The second is that it's that of continuous learning and adaptability. So Instagram algorithm changes every now and then. Similarly, in business, conditions and context changes every now and then. So how adaptable you are to the feedback that you get from people around, and how you are able to ensure that you are able to understand your weaknesses and work well on it, and create a level playing field. And third, essentially, is that you should have a very good team dynamics. Malab, a lot of times, especially in today's time, people work with teams and people work with a solid co-founder. For me, it was Anuj, and we both have a very different kind of profiles. Anuj is 10 years elder to me. He comes from a very solid tech background. I come from a finance background. And we both have a very different personality, right? He is very data driven. I am very people driven, right? So you have to understand how you can complement each other in a way that sort of help you grow in your mission. You don't need to be a cybersecurity specialist in order to create content. What you need is just these three things, and ensuring that you are continuously receptive to feedback that you get from people around, and at the same time understand the team dynamics really well. Right now we have a team of 6 people, and the entire show is like running on autopilot. So you should have that sort of understanding of the space.
Right. So I think you mentioned that this was a pure mission for you. I think one thing which drives mission forward is inspiration and inspiration from other people. So who have been your inspiration within this entire field of cybercrime? Are there any personalities you personally follow or you're inspired by, or probably I mean your co-founder is personally inspired or is following some of these cybersecurity experts in the industry?
Uh, to be honest, none. We never sort of looked up to anyone, especially in the cybersecurity space, because it's important to understand that a lot of things that people do in this space, uh, I have seen instances where people sort of engineer frauds in a way so that they can sell their anti like security products out there. So it's very difficult to sort of understand anyone. And also, the kind of people who are in cybersecurity space are generally very low in their personality, right? They are sort of underground in some sense. So we sort of never really looked up to anyone in this space, and we always thought that we should be doing things that we understand. We should be doing things that we can see make sense for us, and we should be innovating things and not basically following someone who has a sort of a different working style. But that being said, we did have a chance to interact with a lot of individuals in their journey. So we interacted with someone called uh, I keep forgetting the name, but Rakshit Tandanya. So I think we had a chat with him, sort of understood what was his mission. We had a chat with a few other people in the space. So that is how we have operated, but we have never really looked up to anyone.
Right. So before we wrap up today's podcast, would you like to give one key message to your audience, to your community members about how they can stay safe in today's rapidly evolving digital world? As well as, is there any new projects or collaborations or any new content which cyber detectives must be posting in 2025, which you would like to share with today's viewers, your audience, and your community members?
Yeah, I feel that this is something that when we recently gave our TEDx talk, we talked about it. That there are two things essentially that we need to take care of in this society. One is what is basically victim blaming is something that a lot of Indians do. Now, by that I mean if someone is becoming victim to an online scam, rather than calling that person a fool or or maybe mocking him, we should be very sympathizing towards that person because the same thing could happen to you, and it has happened to the best software engineers out there. Because as much as cyber security is a technological problem, it is equally a psychological problem. So this cyber criminals basically play around with your psychology and engineer certain things in a way that it is not at all about tech. It is about your own mind and how you get manipulated through their actions. So ideally, we should not be victim blaming anyone who is becoming victims to it and supporting that person through that journey, because filing for cases, going through that loops and loops of investigation might really strain you out with only 20% chance that you would recover any of your money. That is the number one thing that we wanted to share. And the second is that you have to understand other thing. When we were young, right, what was the advice that we were getting from our parents? We were getting advice like travel safely, don't eat food from your strangers, take care of your luggage, right? And this elderly advice was only there to support us, and ensure that we are safe. But now the things have changed. Now it is our responsibility to share that kind of advice with our elders, which are our parents. And because when they were young, they did not have UPI. UPI just came 8 to 10 years ago. When they were young, they were not doing net banking. They were not using social media. So now, because we know a little bit about it and we know more about it than our parents, that loop or that sort of a direction of getting feedback has or giving advice is now reversed. Now they definitely tell us still that ensure that you don't eat food from strangers, travel safely, vagera vagera. But now it is equally the onus is on younger community like us, you and me, to spread education to the elder folks on how to use UPI, how to transact safely, how to safeguard your passwords, how to use social media. So I think that sort of mindset shift of not just taking advice, but giving advice and giving necessary instructions to parents, and also ensuring that parents are listening to you and ensuring your sort of feedback is, I think, a very important step that society needs to take. So on a higher level, these are the two key ideas that I want to share, and ensure that it is sort of implemented in some sense throughout the country.
And are there any new collaborations or projects which your viewers can expect in 2025?
Not really. I think what we really want to do is we want to keep continuing with the content and new sort of scams that we see. We want to spread information about the same, potentially also work with the government, which we really want to, because we do feel that government sort of would be supported a lot with spreading content and ensuring that every individual in the country is aware, and we can be a good catalyst for the same. So that is something that we which is there on our mind.
Thank you so much, Krish, for recording this podcast with us today. I personally got to learn a lot of new insights from you. Your journey is very inspiring. It's personally inspiring for a young founder like me to learn how, in 9 months, you were able to create such a large community through tapping into a field which is very niche but is very important. And I loved some of the advices which you shared today, that even though cybercrime is a technological problem, it's also a psychological problem. And I hope that your insights and the message which you shared today will be very helpful for the audience which will be watching us. So thank you so much once again, Krish, and all the best with your journey.